Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Sports. I am Ralph Labella.
And I'm Ron Sen. First, a word about Rodrigo Coxa, who none of us have ever heard of before today, who's set the record for surfing the highest wave in Portugal. They have a jet ski that somehow tows you onto the wave. And in November, he skied an 80-foot high wave.
Wow.
Which is, I mean, it's incredible if you go on the internet and watch that. And walked away unscathed. So congratulations, something out of Point Break, that movie. Truly amazing. Opinions are not facts. We trade in opinions here, just like they do on sports radio and talk television. For example, Felger on Felger and Mass says the Patriots should never draft a running back in the first round because you can get an outstanding running back anywhere. You just pick them up off the street. They're just walking around waiting to be great. Opinions are not fact.
Well, he was knocking the offensive linemen too. I mean, the grades they gave teams, the Patriots were the #1 team. They said the Patriots had the best draft because of the 2 draft picks next year.
Right.
They're going to have 3 third rounders, 2 seconds, and a first.
Right.
So, but they love the offensive lineman. What's his name?
Isaiah Wynn.
Wynn. They say he's a great guard, but he can play tackle.
Yeah, he played tackle last year. He's played guard. He played hurt all year, only gave up 5 pressures and something like 320 passing attempts. And he played with a torn shoulder labrum. They asked him about it. He said, you know, whatever, it hurt a little.
But you know what they said? He's one of the best they've ever seen.
Technique.
Like, with a double block. He'll open up a hole. He'll drive the
and then go to the
defensive
second
lineman
level.
and go right to the linebacker. They said he's very good at that. And, you know, everything you hear, he's a special lineman. So if he doesn't play tackle, if the guy they got from the Browns in the trade plays tackle, or if Waddle plays left tackle.
Well, Tooney wasn't fantastic.
Tooney's gone. Tooney will be a backup then, which is good. He's going to be one of the best guards in football.
And then the other guard's going to be probably a free agent because they're not going to want to pay for him. So there's a method to their madness. And when you draft a player in the first round, you get the 5th-year option, so you get an extra year before they're going to free agency.
But Ron, I mean, everybody was talking about, which I was hoping they got a stud linebacker. Well, Tennessee jumped in front of them twice.
Right.
So they didn't have the stud linebacker, a linebacker who was better than the linebackers they have. Believe it or not, you know, you have Flowers, Van Noy, and hopefully Hightower's back healthy. Lange is going to be back. He's going to be healthy. So they may feel that, you know, their linebackers are better than anybody else. But what people don't realize, what's going to win the Super Bowl for them this year? It's going to be their offense again. You know, now you got a great running back who they say is better than Lewis. Tougher than Lewis, quicker than Lewis. He's going to be great in the open field on swing passes.
Yeah, he's until this year, he had over 20 catches a year as a sophomore and junior. This year, they just didn't use him that way.
No, but you look at it and you say, this made the offense so much stronger. You got a great lineman who they're all saying is going to be a great, whether he plays guard or tackle. You got a real good running back with that offensive style. They lost Lewis. They lost Amendola. You know they're going to go with two backs in a lot of their sets. One's going to split out, you know, and every one of the backs, you know, White's a great receiver coming out of the backfield or the slot. Now you have this kid, Michelle. They pronounce him Michelle?
Michelle.
So, I mean, the offensive is going to be strong.
Right. I mean, the other thing is maybe there'll be fewer situations where it's 2nd and 13 because this kid will get 5 yards on first down, so it can change the play calling.
But I was also listening to a talk show, right, and they were talking about, when people talk about their defense, they've picked up 2 real good linemen. That Atlanta defensive end, Clayton, and you've got Brown, who's going to be terrific. He's getting better and better every year.
Well, they got Rivers back.
And Valentin's back. He was hurt all last year. You know, so their line's going to be better than people. You got Flowers and Wise. You know, and if Hightower can stay healthy, they got in the 3rd round, they got was it the 2nd round? They got the cornerback.
Cornerback, Dawson.
And, you know, I mean, they're going to be the favorites again.
Oh, they are. Vegas has already picked them 6-1 to win the Super Bowl, and they're estimated as over-under for wins at 11, which was the most in the NFL. So, I mean, we don't have to cry poor mouth because of the Patriots. Yes, there have been some off-season drama with Brady, Gronk, a little bit of pushback against Belichick and Alex Guerrero. What do you think is going to happen with the Guerrero situation?
They're not going to let him back in the sidelines. I mean, Brady's just got to live with it. And Gronk, they have to live with it. You know, you can't, their biggest mistake was letting him stand on the sidelines during games, being there at practice, and going on the plane with them. I mean, he doesn't work for them. Right. You know, they should have told Brady, fine, you want to work with him, and Gronk, you want to work with him? You know, it's when you're off the field. Right.
I would give him an office in the facility, you know, where he does his rub down or whatever he does before the game, so that they don't have to be inconvenienced about leaving the facility before the game. But it's unrealistic to think a lineman or a tight end is not going to be able to lift weights and they're only going to be able to maintain their body with resistance bands. That's just not realistic.
You know, and Brady's getting weirder and weirder, you know, every year. I mean, he's not the guy he was 10 years ago. I mean, the things he's doing. He made that speech with that quack last year, you know, and now he's with a guy that everybody disrespects, Guerrero.
Well, I think he's so much into the branding of himself and ways that he can leverage his brand into more money after his career, probably doing stuff with Tony Robbins, that sort of stuff, which that's fine for after your career, but while you're a professional, you have to focus on that. We understand that if he can pick up additional cash wherever, then maybe that's how he's been able to give the hometown discount to the team along the way.
You know, I hope people don't follow him, though, because I don't believe in what he believes in. You know, I don't think he's as nice of a guy as people think he is. Great football player, but just the things he's done over his life, you know what I feel about the girls and all that. And now with these Robbins, he's a quack. Brady's becoming a quack. You know, Guerrero is a quack. And he associates with these people. I mean, you see what Guerrero did. People believing him that had cancer and all that.
He had this product he was marketing as concussion water. I mean, everybody knows there's no such thing as concussion water.
But get into that cancer thing. What was he saying about cancer?
I don't know all the details on
water,
that.
some certain water?
Well, you know, it's difficult to separate people's off-field activities sometimes from their on-field activities. I mean, look at the draft. Now, 4 quarterbacks went in the first 10 picks, one of which was Josh Allen, the quarterback from Wyoming, who wasn't terribly accurate, but he's got a really big arm. And he had tweets that were released on the day of the draft, of him making disparaging comments about African Americans in particular. And he said, well, I was young then, and that wasn't me. Well, you know, if it wasn't you, then why did you have to delete them all beforehand, but other people had already saved them? And I'm sure that's going to, how's it going to look when you're behind the quarterback and you got a bunch of linebackers screaming at you, I'm coming to get you?
Well, their captain, the Buffalo's captain, said that, you know, he should talk to the whole team or want it individually, but he should speak to everyone and ask them how they feel and let them know how he feels. But the thing, too, is Stephen A. Smith came out on his side. He said, listen, he was a kid. To me, you're not a kid when you're 15 and you say something like that. You know, you don't say something like, you're smart enough at 15 years old, you know enough, and you don't talk that way. So, you know, I would think there's going to be problems on that Buffalo team.
Yeah, I would think so. Of course, in the AFC East, you had first Cleveland being Cleveland, drafting Baker Mayfield, which he's a very productive quarterback at Oklahoma. On the short side, good leader, questionable decisions. I think he had some alcohol-related problems. And that meant Darnold fell to the Jets at 3. So the Jets got a quarterback. The Bills got a quarterback. And, you know, we'll see. So those teams are trying to set themselves up for the post-Brady era.
You know, you don't know how they're going to be. They're talented. Is it Don? I call him Donald. It's Donnell.
I don't know.
But I saw him play last year in one of the bowl games. He was unbelievable. He was the best quarterback in that game that I've ever seen. He had some problems this year with turnovers, But boy, what a game he had! He threw 5 touchdown passes in that game, and he was hitting everybody deep, short, stands in the pocket, 6'5" strong. So I really loved him last year, but again, this year he had some problems.
Well, one question is Belichick setting himself up for a big draft next year, or is this his last year before he rides off into the sunset?
Well, it's very simple. Why did he trade that 41st pick? Do you know why he traded it for a second-round pick next year?
Oh, so nobody could tell what Garoppolo got traded for.
Does he think people are idiots? You're trading the 41st pick this year for, I don't even know what the pick will be next year. What team was it?
The Bears.
The Bears.
Right.
So it's going to be a low pick. So it's going to be in the 30s.
Right.
So it might work out.
You know, and then they draft a quarterback, Etling, in the 7th round, just to say they drafted a quarterback.
But you don't know, though. LSU, Ron, 60% completion rate in that league.
Yeah, you know, he's played big-time competition, but I know that some people had him ranked as the 30th best quarterback in the draft.
And did he throw 16 touchdown passes and 2 interceptions? Something like that?
I don't
or
think it was
14 and 2?
No, I don't think it was that good. But anyway, we never know. I mean, we're all projecting. The Patriots in the middle rounds got 2 beefy linebackers, Bentley and Sam. We don't know how good they are. I mean, apparently they're sort of typical inside linebackers that are more run-focused. That means maybe Hightower is going to move up to the outside.
Well, Sam said he can do everything. He goes, I like covering the tight ends coming out or the backs coming out. You know, I did a lot of that. So maybe maybe he's going to be a steal at that pick. And the other guy is slower.
Right.
And you don't want him to be another one of those. Who's a linebacker they got from Florida that couldn't move left or right?
Oh,
but
I know what you mean. Yeah.
You don't want another one of them.
The one that had the car accident.
Yeah. But then was going on with someone's
Spikes.
daughter. Yeah.
Oh.
So he was going out with Rivers' daughter, Spikes.
Oh,
Doc
really?
Rivers.
Go figure. Anyway, so it's not desperate. The Patriots also signed a couple of free agent punters, so you wonder if Ryan Allen is going to get some competition. I wonder if they're left-footed punters, too. Belichick always goes after these left-footed guys. And, you know, you never know. The NCAA Commission on One and Done came up with some findings, and they think that they should get away from the one and done, and NBA teams should be allowed to pick players directly out of high school, or looking at another way, high school players should be able to go do whatever they want. I mean, it's hard enough to try to identify players who are going to be successful who've played college basketball, but trying to pick high school kids to be pros. There's something like 236 kids that came out for the draft this year. I mean, they did a survey, and almost 75% of D1 players think that they could play pro, and 21% of D3 players think they could play pro. I mean, they have no idea that the NBA is so far away from Division III men's college basketball.
Out of all the sports, it's basketball. But that one and done should stand. It's almost like playing AAA baseball. The one and done, and the kids are learning more, and then they're ready, more prepared for the pros. I think it should stay the way it is.
Well, what I object to is universities that are truly great universities get away from their educational purpose when they become basketball minor league teams.
It's like Duke.
Well, that's exactly what I'm saying. It's hard to say you're one of the top 10 universities in America when you're bringing in basketball players to play for a year and take classes for 6 months. You know, that's not serious in an educational purpose. Now, I know the argument is, well, look, we're bringing in lots of money, and that's good for the university as a whole. Good enough, I guess.
But I think it's going to stay that way. It really has to.
Who's going to benefit? I guess the players benefit, the high school players, because they get their money sooner. The G League will probably benefit because most of these guys are going to, you know, I don't know how many people think high school players are going to be getting meaningful minutes in the NBA. And maybe some assistant coaches in the G League are going to get a chance to develop talent and get a quicker start on moving into the NBA, like Jerry Stackhouse. They're talking about at Carolina and or Charlotte, and then it remains to be seen who the new Knicks coach is going to be. Jay Larinaga, one of the Celtics assistants, apparently interviewed David Blatt, who coached the Cavaliers, and I think Mark Jackson
Blatt,
also.
did he go to Europe too?
He's been in Europe.
Egypt or somewhere?
I don't know. He's been all over the place.
Egyptian
He played for Pete Carroll at Princeton. He's really an offensive genius. The problem is being an offensive genius and getting along with the NBA players isn't the same thing.
Yeah, but coaching, a lot of people say that coaching's not that big in the NBA, that important. I mean, it's the players, really. Look at Cleveland. Lou knows nothing about basketball. He played it, but look at him. James is running the team, basically.
Well, you look at a team like Utah, and they have Gobert's pretty good talent, but they got guys like Ingles. Donovan Mitchell's really good. But I think Quinn Snyder does a really great job with them. He was a Duke player and strong candidate for Coach of the Year.
It worked out for Utah, though, getting Mitchell, huh?
Oh, yeah. They beat Oklahoma City in the first round. OKC. Now, how much fun is it to play for OKC when in the final game Russell Westbrook takes 43 shots? And
George does as usual, goes 2 for 16.
I know. There's a lot of people really beating on George, and presumably he's going to go to the Lakers. We'll find out.
I've never liked George, because he has a history of not hitting the big shots, and I think he's overrated. I mean, he scores sometimes. Some games he has a bad game. How do you go 2 for 16 and score? What do you score, 5?
Not much.
5 points in the biggest game of the year. And then Anthony. Now, Stephen A. Smith's supposed to know basketball. He's a big fan of Anthony. I would never want him on the Celtics. He would just ruin the team, a guy like Anthony. So he goes to Oklahoma City. What's he going to do? I thought that maybe just stand there and Westbrook would hit him. He'd hit the open jump shots. He doesn't do anything else. He's not the defensive player he used to be. And then George, he's inconsistent.
Well, and Anthony, they asked him whether he'd be able to come off the bench, and he basically said, no, I can't do that. So the guy I like on the team that is underappreciated is Steven Adams. He's a beast. And he doesn't have to shoot the ball that much.
But some people are saying that, James may go to Philadelphia. He's not going to go to Philadelphia. Philadelphia doesn't want him.
Yeah, I think that if you're the young players, you want to carve out your own legacy.
You want to develop your team.
Yeah, whereas I think the Philadelphia players are saying, we want to win with what we have, not have LeBron come in and get all the credit.
Well, the problem when you have LeBron, what's Simmons going to do with LeBron there? Simmons has got to handle the ball in the half court. And you're going to have LeBron, and so they're not going to match well. But LeBron, maybe the Lakers. I would say the Lakers. And if George goes to the Lakers, if LeBron wants, then you get both of those guys at the Lakers.
Well, we'll talk more about that. We'll be right back. Welcome back. It doesn't get any better than this. We have Lou, the sports guru, with us, and the Bruins are in the NHL playoffs and advanced to the second round. The answer on sports radio is, well, Toronto's worst choking dog is in the Bruins. I don't think it's that simple.
No, but I think that, their goalie was probably far worse in Game 7 than our goalie was. I mean, the Bruins have been great in third period. So, I mean, at least you can say that. They got that going for them. But so in Game 7 of that series, was Raz good in that game?
No, he was okay. They had 2 goals on tips, which are tough to deal with.
He's not good at angles, it seems to me.
I don't, you know what it is, honestly? He's not good in big games. I mean, I don't know what the weakness is, because honestly, when he's good, let me rephrase that. When he's great, he's fluid, he's quick, he's like Felix the cat. He gets everywhere.
But there's hundreds of thousands of people screaming at their television saying, clear the puck out of your end.
I know.
So,
ice it. Jesus.
I mean, if you ice it, so what? The other team has 40 seconds of zone time, and you can only defend so long.
That's the one thing that gets me. They're peppering, especially the Bruins, they're peppering them someone gets their stick on the puck, just flick it up in the air. If you get called for icing, if it goes too far, you get called for it. It takes the pressure off you for a minute.
Well, there's no penalty for icing except the face-off in your own
Right.
zone, which, you know, I mean, that can be negated by a face-off win. So, you know, you get yourself out of trouble, obviously. But, I mean, you know, they have their problems. I think that if you want to look at this team and call them a cup contender, on paper, yeah, they're a cup contender. Reality, they're a cup contender because they're still playing. So, yeah, you know, it's like, you know, I'm alive. I can, you know, do anything. But seriously, I don't know. After Rask, another Game 7, he did not look inspiring at all. I don't know if he put any confidence into anybody. I mean, I would love to hear the opinion of somebody to come here and say, no, I'm going to tell you why I have all the confidence in the world in Tuukka Rask.
Well, it's interesting that you see some, to me anyway, strategic plays where people don't shoot at the net. They shoot around the net hoping for a shot pass or whatever they call it. Or they shoot to the near side hoping for a hard rebound to come off on the far side. It's just different from what we grew up with.
Well, when, you know something, I don't think Rask is the kind of goalie that if he gives up a couple of rebounds, I think the third shot's going in, because I don't think he's that kind of goalie. I mean, I think he's capable of a spectacular save, but, you know, like that breakaway. I mean, it was, you know, breakaway, let's face it, it's probably a 50-50 probability, you know? It's him and you, and maybe he shoots it in, maybe you save it. But, I mean, on that one,
well, Marchand looked like he had two left hands trying to keep the puck in the net. Then he's chasing the guy. It looked like he had two left hands trying to defend.
I thought Marchand had the speed to catch him. I was really surprised that he didn't, but it was towards the end of his shift. So, I mean, let's face it, you know, okay, so he was gassed, and he didn't have the angle. So, you know, he had basically two chances. Try and wrestle the puck from him, and that didn't work. Or do something stupid and give him a penalty shot.
Which was the closest thing to a penalty shot, a slow motion goal. It took forever to develop.
But yeah, Rask was down, and he was down, he was out, and it was like painful because you were like, oh no, God no! And then it went in, and you were just like, pull him, please.
What is there? You know, you look at hockey, right? And you know, I like hockey, not like basketball, the other sports. To me, the Bruins are weak along the boards. Is it me, or am I wrong?
They're a good hitting team, but the thing is, strategically, they can play. But, you know, you made an observation about they have trouble clearing it out of their net, out of their end. I think one of the problems the Bruins have to go along with that is that they can pass the team. I mean, you know, they can pass the puck around, they can move it, they can be fast, they can transition from one end to the other. But it seems like when they get bogged down in their own end, they turn into the Keystone Cops. You know, it's almost like, I don't know if it's panic setting in or what, or maybe they're just not that talented. You know, let's face it, I don't think they're the 76 Canadians by any means. But like that game, for instance, I mean, it was 2 games. The first 2 periods were just, you know, they'd score, and then they'd let up a goal. And they'd score, and then it was like you were just waiting for, okay, so the other team's got to come back and score again.
Do they ever keep a record of how long you're in an attacking zone?
Yeah, they got the attack zone.
How long you're in your defensive zone? Do they have that for the whole year? Because I'm willing to bet that they're...
That's a good question. If they do have them for every game.
They're below 50% in the attacking end, and they're, well, if they are there, then
they're probably more in their own end.
In their own end. I like to know that, because to me, every time I watch them, they're talented. You know, Marchand and his line, the second line's good. The other lines are pretty good, but it seems like the puck's in their end more often.
Well, the other thing that's mysterious is that Charlie McAvoy spent a lot of time falling down on his skates, which I don't know if he was out with a concussion, but is the guy really okay if he can't skate anymore? I mean, he looks like he's better now.
And he's the first defensive, you know, he's Rask's wingman. So, I mean, excuse me, Chara, you know? So, I mean, we need, let's face it, the Bruins aren't going anywhere. I'm sorry to say they're not going anywhere because their goalie is not going to win them a championship. When they won it in 2011, they got really stellar defensive play that they are not going to get this time around. They got, you know, Chara is, how old is he, 50? Really, how old is he? Is he older than me? I mean, he found the fountain of youth. He's playing very good. McAvoy, I don't know if he hit the wall or maybe he bounced off it. He's
They
back
say he had
playing
a good
again.
game against the last
Yeah.
game he played.
But I mean,
Well, who's better than them, though, especially in the
On this
League?
team?
No, who's better than the Bruins?
well,
I don't think Tampa Bay is.
no, you
And
know
then
what? though?
Pittsburgh, I don't think is.
Pittsburgh or Washington, I think.
Well, the Bruins have
Washington, to
this
me,
the
would be the
Washington
toughest.
thing. The Bruins, it's like in their head.
Right, yeah. And Pittsburgh, they just don't seem to. Pittsburgh gets all the calls, let's face it. Sidney Crosby, he's the wonder boy in the NHL. They give him he gets every call.
Just like LeBron last night.
Like LeBron,
yesterday.
exactly. I think that to get off topic for a second where he's concerned, Sidney Crosby has won 3 championships. He would have only won 1, I believe, if not for the refs helping the team. But I digress. I think those 2 teams will give the Bruins a harder time because they're probably better offensively. I mean, Pittsburgh's got a lot of firepower. I don't know as far as matching up if you want to say, well, the Bruins this and Pittsburgh that or Washington that. But if they get to the Cup, if they were to get there, I don't know. I can't see Tuukka Rask winning 4 series. I can't see the Bruins blowing anybody out either to giving him the time to rest. I don't know. Maybe he'll play better if he's playing every other day. And I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, what do all the teams just play the number 1 guy, or do
Yeah,
other
the
teams?
playoffs they do.
Other teams.
Yeah, the last. Let me think now. If I had to give it some thought, I know the Bruins did that with Eddie Johnston and Jerry Cheevers in the early 70s. They won a cup with 2 goalies, won 2 games apiece. But, that was, ancient history. I mean, there's so many different things that go on in hockey now, like all sports, like relief pitchers used to pitch 3 innings, to get a save. It's a different game. But I don't know. I mean, the Bruins, my biggest problem with this team, right, honestly, is they win the other day 6-2. And so now everybody's thinking, we're just going to blow through this series. But, Tampa knows them. They know each other. It's not going to be one of those series that I'd be stunned if the Bruins ran away with it. 6-2 the other day. I mean, we had the one instance, it could have been 6-1. Rask had his Tonya Harding skate incident, whatever. I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, what's the deal with the skate blade falls
Never
off
heard
your
of
skate?
that. I've never seen that before.
I mean,
Well, it's
do
not
they,
the one that's cemented in. It's they use these things, and they have 2 extra ones on the bench.
yeah, but
behind the
don't
bench.
they check them before the game to make sure the screws are tight or whatever?
Well,
I've
no,
never
they
seen
pop
it.
in and pop out.
Oh.
I
But
think you
I've
press
never,
it
I've
for
never seen
pressure.
it. Never seen it happen
That's what
during
we're
a
talking
game.
about, and all
Yeah.
the players have two in case something happens during the game.
Yeah, I
Okay.
can't even imagine that, though.
But
I mean,
I have a question, though. In what sport do you think it's a higher percentage of choking? Where's a better chance of choking? What sport and what position?
that is a
First, it's a sport.
that is a fantastic question.
Well, I think kickers in football certainly can choke.
We could have a series of TV shows on just that right there. That is a fantastic
No, but you think about what
question.
sport. I know the sport I think that's easy to choke in than other sports.
And what's that? Basketball?
Golf.
Well,
No,
yeah, you know what, though? Golf, you're right, because
The pressure gets to a lot of those guys.
Tin Cup was on last night.
you know what? Honestly, though, I saw a number. Now, just to show, I'll stand up for a second. I mean, a golf swing. You stand up, right? And you think, okay, well, what? You just grab the club, you lean forward. But there's so many different angles to your spine, to how you hold, to how far back you go, to how you lean in, where your shoulders are. I heard there are 5 quintillion different angles and ways to swing a golf club. 5 quintillion. So put that math into a game in which these guys, they're not just trying to shoot it straight at the flag. They're trying to draw it in. They're trying to do all of these. And then there's putting. I would say you're right. I would say golf is probably,
Well, yeah, the way I look at it is in baseball, when you're a batter, most players, 7 out of 10 times, they're not going to get a hit. So there's really not much pressure on you there, even in a big game. If you're at the foul line shooting foul shots, that's a tough time. If you're feeling it a little,
Yeah.
I mean, people could say, hey, he choked on those 2 shots. But
Usually, though, it's not one shot that they say you choked. I mean, Larry Bird missed a shot here and there, too. But it's when the fourth quarter comes around and, you miss 5 out of 7 shots, you say, okay, he choked.
Well, I think
You know,
one important distinction is panicking versus choking. Choking is when you know exactly what to do and you can't do it.
Yeah.
Panicking is when you're facing a situation is you don't know what to do and you're just out there. Like if somebody said, "Oh gosh, the pilot just, had a heart attack. Go land the plane." That's panicking because none of us.
well, right, none of us know how to land a plane. But to his point, though, golf is you against the flag, you against the hole. I mean, every other sport, tennis to tiddlywinks, is realistically, you have to say it's man against man, and it's hard to measure a man against man effort and say, well, you choked. Because maybe, most of the time you can say, well, the other person's better. But in this case, you want to talk about Rask. I mean, save percentage, how numbers are. No, it's like shooting percentage. I mean, a guy can shoot 95% lights out shooting, and you say, yeah, but he was uncontested for every shot. Versus somebody else went 83%, you could say he had hands in his face all night and the ball still dropped. Obviously, that's a better effort despite the numbers. So, I mean, Rask, I don't know that he's faced all of these, I don't think he's been peppered.
Go back to last year in the last goal, in the last game he played in. If that's not choking,
yeah, that was a softie.
Being 3 feet outside the net on that puck that went to the side,
yeah,
you're not concentrating. To be out of position and them score the winning goal.
Yeah, I think the best.
That's a big time choke.
The best goalies of all time have been zoned in. I mean, if you want to look at a non-goalie like Bobby Orr, to me anyway, and Wayne Gretzky, there was no noticeable difference in the play of a Bobby Orr or Wayne Gretzky, whether it was playoffs or anything. He just glided across the ice and he played to the top of his level, whether it was against the Cleveland Barons or whether it was against the Montreal Canadiens.
How much bigger are the contemporary goalie pads from historical goalie pads?
That's a good question. I'll tell you why. They got so big when they finally, I mean, Patrick Roy, I don't think he could sit down. I think they probably had to help him onto the bench, or they probably had to take him off. His pads were so big that eventually they had to do something because, okay, so you got a goalie that's 6'3", and he's got the biggest sets of pads. There was no open space, and he was a great goalie. Back in the day, what Chivas wore, Gilbert wore, they were the same stuff that you could find goalies at the MDC rink wearing. So they've added some new restrictions to bring them down. I still think they're bigger than what Chivas wore, though, back in the day.
Okay. Well, it just seems like what would happen if somebody found a 500-pound guy who was kind of athletic and put pads on him, and he just filled up the net because he was so big.
That's why they're trending towards bigger goalies. I mean, in the 80s, they were going towards athletic, and this is sports. It's the whole like lemmings. Everybody follows the trend, and they were going for these 5'8" goalies, 5'9", because they were athletic. But then they realized, well, we can find athletic guys that are 6'4", and so now you get the Tuukka Rasks, and a guy that might have been signed in the 80s isn't getting signed today because he's, you're too short. You're only 5'11", which is crazy. But they want you to fill as much of the net as possible. So,
well, it makes sense. It takes some of the skill out of it. You just have to be big enough.
Yeah, I mean, it really comes down to get in the way of the puck. By hook or by crook, if you get in the way of the puck, it doesn't matter if you're athletic or just big, right?
Yeah, right.
Boy, if they could draft a real good goalie, get a young guy in there that has talent with this group they have now.
As for positives, I think we'd all say DeBrusk has really been a surprise and positive.
What a goal that was he scored in Game 7. Yeah, he's really, he's got 5 goals in the playoffs, and they have
6
the
now,
talent.
isn't it?
Yeah, 6. He had 5 after that series. There is something to be said, though, for the top end of the Bruins' talent. I don't know that they have the defensive pairings, because I think that when they won the Cup in 11, and let's face it, this team, we're always going to look back to that Cup as the gold standard because, we got tremendous goaltending, but we got tremendous defensive play, too. That was the thing that Tim Thomas stood on his head. But when he didn't have to stand on his head was because the defensive pairings were out there. They were killing it, and Chara was unbelievable. Chara is not playing like that right now because he can't. But he's giving them what they got. I think they need a defenseman, and I think they need a better goalie.
Now, was it John Cameron Swayze who said the watch took a licking, but it's still ticking? Now Marchand is ticking, and then he goes licking.
I know it. What are they? I saw something today. What are the odds that Marchand licks somebody tonight?
He almost did it the other night, too.
He is soft. He really is, you know. I mean, I think the comparisons, you know, the Kenny Linsman comparisons, or the, you know, you want to call him the, you know, the little ball of hate, you know, and all that stuff. But
he's a great player.
He's a great player. I think he's, you know, I was worried, though, that he was going to let his reputation ruin his talent by, you know, you get that reputation, and a referee looks over at you, you get the hook because they don't even want to hear it.
But it's so easy to get him thrown out of the game, suspended.
Exactly. That's the problem.
I mean, they've been battling during the last series and this series, last game. All someone has to do is whack him behind the leg.
And he'll do something.
Stick.
I know.
He'll turn around and whack him in the head with the stick.
Exactly. And if he gets if it's a borderline thing, he's getting suspended. And that's a problem. And right now, he's one of the players, one of the probably 3 or 4 you cannot afford to have him out of a game. You know, if they're going to go anywhere.
They have a shot.
They do.
I think they do have a shot.
They do. I mean, you know, they're not going to win pretty. They're not going to blow anybody out. You know, they're scoring. I mean, I didn't think they could do the scoring that they've done. You got to. I mean, there's been some empty netters, but they scored 7 goals 3 times in that series, and they just 6 the other day. So I mean, that's really, you know, you have to win some tight games in the playoffs. Can Rask do it? Well, can the Bruins do it defensively? But I just don't know, can they do it over the course of a series if you don't want to say if the scoring dries up, but if it comes down to a tough defensive game where it's 1-to-1, can Rask win more than one of those? You know, anything can happen once.
Well, I think we're all saying the same thing, is that you need a goalie who can win a game for you as opposed to not lose a game for you. And
and you know what? You can look at the Ken Drydens. Obviously, he stole games for the Canadians. But it's not just that. You know, I mean, Chris Osgood was a good goalie for Detroit. He wasn't a great goalie by any means. Mike Vernon was a very, very good goalie. He wasn't a great goalie. Neither one of them is Hall of Fame material, but they were in very tight matchups in their careers against teams that were just as good, and they were the difference. And that's what's going to happen, is it's the old, you know, I punch you in the face, you punch me, and now we're going to see whose knees buckle first. And that's the problem with Rask, is can he withstand that? And
well, hopefully he gets the opportunity to emerge and, you know, put the pelt on the horse, as Parcells would say.
Well, Parcells would say a lot of things, and right now Rask has the potential to win games for the Bruins, but as he said about potential only means you haven't done anything yet.
We'll be right back. The Celtics start the second round, the semifinal round of the Eastern Conference tonight, hosting the Philadelphia 76ers, who've won something like 20 out of their last 21 games and really haven't been challenged. Now, some people are attributing that to the schedule, but Philadelphia breezed through the first round, and they've got some tough characters in Embiid, Simmons, Saric, and Redick, who I think Redick is going to be the key to the series. If he's hot from the outside, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, him and who's that other guy, Barinelli?
Barinelli, Ilyasova, Covington. They have a lot of
I mean, they have
shooters.
shooters. And, you know, you're going to put Smart on one of them, especially if Brown's out, to hopefully shut down either Redick or when Barinelli comes in the game. And the key to the game, to the series is, I think Baines can handle Embiid pretty much. He's not going to shut him down, but I think he's very physical. He'll get in Embiid's head. Embiid will not like going up against him. So, and I think Monroe will get playing time in this series because they're going to need him in there.
Yeah.
And at times Horford will cover Embiid. But I think Horford's going to start off covering Simmons. Believe it or not, their center most of the year is going to be covering the point guard for Philly.
Well, that'll be interesting to see that. The Celtics had a very tough series against the Bucks. Obviously, Antetokounmpo, terrific player. It's almost impossible to hold him down, and yet Semi Ojeleye did a pretty reasonable job.
Did a great job.
I mean, you can't expect perfection against the guy because you can't stop him from taking followaways from 15 feet.
Before the series, I said he's not the key player. Middleton, to me, was going to be the key player because he doesn't miss an open shot.
Yeah, they never really held Middleton down, but they were able to win anyway.
But they did a real good job. And then they had no presence down low, Milwaukee. They need a center.
Yeah, Maker's a perimeter player right now. He
Yeah.
was very good defensively, really changed the series with a lot of block shots. But seems like the Celtics were able to get around that eventually.
I mean, a lot of people in work asked me going into the 7th game how I felt. I said, Celtics will win by 15. I really did in that game. I didn't know Brown was going to get injured, you know, and they still played well. Because I saw Milwaukee play live a couple of times, and I said, they're soft. They're soft. And then when I saw the way Ojale was getting into his head, the Greek's head, I said, they got it made. Problem is that the Celtics played some great basketball at home, some poor basketball on the road.
Well, what I was pleased to see is that Marcus Morris had a lot better second half. Up to that point, he'd really kind of disappeared for parts of the series.
He wasn't playing good basketball.
No, I mean, he's a good shooter, but you know, even if you're a shooter, sometimes you can go cold, and he really got cold. But he heated up in the second half, which was really a key. And then, of course, Terry Rozier, I think he was 5 for 7 from three-point land in the final, had 9 assists. I mean, he was outstanding, and Bledsoe probably knows his name now.
Yeah. They need him to play big time in this series. They need Tatum to play big time in this series. And Horford. They all have to play good. And Smart's he's got to score some.
Well, they've got to hold their own on the boards, and the other area that Philadelphia has kind of turns the ball over a lot. So that's one area that the Celtics might be able to take advantage of, although to a lesser degree with Brown out. You
know what they may do too is, you may see Stevens, who's done a good job in the playoffs against Milwaukee. I was impressed what he did with it, Ojale. I mean, that really was a key move. But I think that Stevens is going to read it this way. He's not going to want Horford to have to cover Embiid the whole series. But he may be thinking, I'm going to do that because when we have the ball on offense, Embiid's going to have to cover Horford. Horford's going to take him behind the three-point line. Embiid's not going to be able to help down low. If he helps down low, kick it out to Horford, and Horford's very good at that three-point shot. So that's going to be an interesting thing. If you see Horford playing Embiid, number one reason why Horford's covering Embiid is because when they go on offense, Celtics going to have a huge advantage.
Do you think Ojale will start tonight or Morris?
No, because who's Ojale going to cover?
I'm not sure.
The only way maybe Ojale would start is because Brown's not playing, and they want Morris coming off the bench.
So you think Smart's on Redick, and Horford's on Simmons? You may see
Rozier on Redick, because everybody else is bigger than Redick. Who's Rozier going to cover?
Right.
So you may see him on Redick, and Redick won't be able to take advantage of him. He's taller than him.
But he's not that quick relative to Rozier.
So Rozier would just have to take away the three-point shot. So you'll see Smart on someone else because Covington's 6'7". They're not going to put Rozier on him. And Simmons is 6'10".
Well, there aren't so many compelling series out there. I don't think Houston is going to be compelling, at least judged by last night. Houston pretty much did whatever they wanted to.
Oh, the series I want to see is Houston against Golden State.
Well,
I want to see that.
It'll be interesting. Now, Curry's not starting, I think, the first game. And New Orleans is, Rondo decided to start playing again. And he has, some talent to work with.
They're just not talented enough to beat Houston.
No. Houston is, they're remarkable. Obviously, they lead the league in pick and roll offense. I think they're the leaders in isolation offense, and the number one isolation player in the league is Harden. Because Harden, very few people are big enough to cover him, take away his outside shot, and then he drives to the basket. If you put a small guy on him, he just goes right over him.
Well, here's a matchup. They play Golden State. Who do you think is going to be covering Harden?
Klay Thompson.
The best defensive player in the league, guard-wise, will be covering Harden. So that's going to make it a little more difficult for Harden. They'll have Curry on Paul, and so the matchups. Even though I think Houston's going to give him a great series, that matchup of Thompson on Harden is going to be the key.
Well, I guess it'll depend whether Curry can stay healthy as he recovers from injury. We'll find out. And we can switch gears to baseball. The Red Sox got off to a terrific start. They've cooled off a little bit. The Yankees have been hot lately.
Here come the Yanks.
Hey, they're playing really well. The guys are supposed to have power. And who's the MVP candidate in the league right now?
Oh, Gregorius.
Gregorius is, what is that, 10 home runs, 30 RBIs. He's been fantastic at shortstop.
But you know who they're playing tonight?
Who?
Houston.
Oh, well.
They're going to Houston for 3, I think. If they can come out of Houston winning 2 out of the 3, they got what's his name going today, who
that's like
Gray's pitching today. He's been terrible.
That's like the old Saturday Night Live thing when Tim Tebow has won 6 in a row for the Broncos, and supposedly there's a locker room and Jesus comes in the door. There's a puff of smoke, and he sits down next to Tebow. Tebow's all excited, and he says, "Who are you playing this week?" And he says, "Oh, the Patriots." He goes, "Oh." He's there. Oh, that's a tough one.
But this is a big series for the Red Sox. The Yankees have cut their lead to 2, from 8 to 2. And it's still early in the year, of course.
Well, I mean,
but the Red Sox have KC, 3 games. Yanks have Houston. Good chance for the Red Sox. If the Yankees come out of it still down 2, I mean, they're on a roll and a half.
Well, it's really interesting in baseball how some of the teams that maybe spend less money, like the Orioles, they're terrible right now. I think they're 6-18. Kansas City wins the World Series, or in the World Series 2 years in a row, and they're awful now.
Yeah.
So things can go from riches to rags now, depending on who you lose in free agency.
But you know what's good about the Yankees, watching their team? Andujar's really playing well, the rookie third baseman. Mm-hmm. They got Torres back. He's healthy after the Tommy John surgery. He's playing second. Boy, he looks really good.
They were talking about Mookie Betts doesn't want to sign a longer-term deal. One of the reasons is he wants to see what the money's going to be with Harper and Machado. Because, is Harper going to get 10 years at $40 million a year? And same thing for Machado. You don't know what he's going to get. The Orioles, they really should trade him off as soon as they can, because whoever's getting him wants to get the full value of the deal.
That's right. They should make that deal. And I would never give Harper a contract of eight. He's going to be looking for 8 years at $40 million. I'd never give $320 million to him.
Well, my son makes the argument that if you're Harper, why not just auction yourself off to the highest bidder year by year? Say, I'll take $50 million to play for the Angels for 1 year.
He tears up his knee.
Well, that's his loss. But in the meantime, he can keep getting $50 million, $60 million, whatever, for a year. So, and there are players who ultimately have their career ended by injury, like Ray Fosse. But how many great players have you seen had their career ended by injury? Not so many. So the Red Sox starting pitching has been a little shaky this weekend. Sale and Price both giving up the long ball. And Porcello's probably been their most consistent starter so far.
He looks good.
Yeah.
His delivery is really good.
Well, Derek Lowe gave him some tips. Who knows?
No, he looked really good the last game I saw.
And Eduardo Rodriguez looks pretty good. Pomeranz, I always thought his last year was a fluke. No, I don't know. I just thought he was lucky last year. I don't think he's that good.
Oh, that curveball was something last year, though.
Yeah.
I mean, he was really good last year.
And then offensively, J.D. Martinez looks like he's coming around pretty well.
Yeah, he knocked in 2 runs the other night when they came from behind.
He's a butcher in the outfield.
Ground ball between the shortstop and third baseman with bases loaded. Could have easily went right to the shortstop for a double play. I'm over there saying, just went to the right of the shortstop.
What's interesting, one of the reasons I think that Jackie Bradley is not very effective is he hits 1 million ground balls to second base into the shift now. They totally snuffed his offense out, which, he's going to have to get the ball in the air if he's going to have a prayer.
Hey, how about the boys lacrosse team from Melrose?
The boys lacrosse team got featured in the Herald yesterday. ranked in the top 5 in Massachusetts. They're undefeated. They've beaten Needham, which I guess a powerhouse. They're supposed to play Wellesley this week. I don't know if it was today.
And did they beat Archbishop Williams or some team like that? Catholic team?
I don't know. But they're having a great year. I think we had Matt James on the show a few years ago, and it took a long time, but they're really having an outstanding season.
And he's got a great freshman on the team and a great sophomore to go along with the senior class, and so all 4 classes are really helping them.
Right.
And what about how's the girls' team doing?
I think they're doing okay.
The softball team and the baseball team are doing pretty good too.
Not to mention at Westfield went undefeated in conference play, led by Haley Mate and Haley Rodriguez. So it's Haley power.
They both starting?
That I don't know, but I'm sure they're getting a lot of time, and it's good to see.
They went undefeated
in the league play.
They beat Bridgewater. Bridgewater last year, I think they split with them and beat them in the
So it's
playoffs.
it's good to see local players having a lot of success in college.
He did 19-6 last night.
Okay. One issue with the Red Sox is, Cora seems committed to giving guys rest whether they need it or not. You're in the first month of the season.
How about that for the 3rd game? Didn't you get Betts or someone to rest?
Yeah. So, his argument is that if a guy's on a hot streak, it's better to give him a rest as opposed to when he's on going a little poor. I don't know. I've always thought if you're playing well, you want to stay in there.
I think he really likes J.D. Martinez. He doesn't want to get him upset. That's why he's been putting him. Although we talk about before the season started, they should have traded Jackie Bradley Jr. They should have got rid of him, got a pretty good relief pitcher in turn. They have enough outfielders now. They didn't need him, and he's not hitting. What is he hitting, 202?
Oh,
how about the catches? What happened to Vasquez? Last year, he looked like he was going to be
he's not hitting at all, but Leon is hitting even less. He
got the big hit for them now.
Right, 3 for 30 until he got a hit yesterday.
I hope it's a good battle between them and the Yankees. That'll be a lot of fun.
No, baseball's always better when the Yankees are a good team as opposed to struggling. And it's a lot more fun to talk about baseball. There's still issues. I mean, even with the 6 visits to the mound allowed, it still seems like the games go forever.
Over 4 hours on a 9-inning game the other day.
Well, part of the problem was that strikes need to be strikes, and the only way that's ever going to happen is when you have an automated strike zone. They can have a computer-generated strike zone easily. The umpires union would go crazy, but one pitch early in the count in any batter can make the inning go 10 or 15 pitches longer.
Yeah.
And some of these guys just won't call the corners. They won't call high or low. They won't call anything. And and conversely, I guess the argument is that it's the highest percentage. I think something like 32% of outs are strikeouts now. So people say, well, I don't want to see strikeouts. Okay, so you make the strike zone smaller.
And another rule they should have, you can only throw so many pitches to a batter. And here's a rule they should have. Maximum of 8 pitches to a batter.
Well, did you see it, Brandon Belt?
No, listen, in the 8th pitch, if it's a ball, no matter what the count is, he goes to first. If it's a foul ball, he's out. Only 8 pitches or a strike, he's out.
Brandon Belt on the Giants was up for 21 pitches. He had a 12-minute at-bat.
But how about that new rule?
Well, I don't think
8
that's going
pitches.
to. Yeah, I don't think I'd like that very much either way, batter or pitcher.
No, but you have the chance, to work either way. If it's a ball, the guy, he takes the base. If it's 2-2, 1-2, and it's a ball on the 8th pitch, he gets first base.
Well, it's pretty hard for the average person to watch a whole baseball game. Baseball is a sport that old guys like. How many kids do you ask and say, what's your favorite sport? Nobody's going to say baseball.
Well, the kids who grew up with their parents going to the Red Sox game, there's still a lot of kids that go to the games. You see them at the games. But I still love watching baseball. I love watching the Celtics play. But.
All right, let's shift gears for a few minutes to coaching. In youth basketball, how important is winning?
To me and to you?
Well, I mean,
All right, here's a
you know, I saw something today on the basketball coach's Facebook page. It's this championship ring with all these jewels on it, 7th grade championship in some state. It's like, 7th grade championship rings? Are you kidding me?
But people would say, if people that know the two of us, and they would be wrong, and I'll tell you why they would be wrong, they would say winning's more important to me than to you. Even though to both of us, we want the game played the right way. Okay, you just want, you know, you want to teach the game and all that. People think I want to probably win more than, you know.
Well, you know, I'll tell you why that's not true. And that, I mean, as far as, you know, you always put the kids in the best league, whether or not they were going to be as competitive in that league. If you want to win, you're not going to go up against the best talent and the best players and the best coaches. So, you know, you play at a lower level and you're more competitive. Is it better for the players in the long run to play against better talent? I think it is. You know, on the other hand, when you start out with younger players with less experience, it can be demoralizing to go up against real good talent and just get pounded.
Yeah. You know, you got to, you know, I might have done, I thought I did the right thing with the last group I had because I thought, you know, I knew they had a lot of talent and I don't think they knew that they were as talented as I knew they could be. And I tried to push them to get there. And, you know, and what it did is we played in tournaments and we won against some pretty good teams, but not the best in the state. I had them going up against all the top teams in the state. Well, the good thing is anytime they went up against a pretty good team, they won. You know, we won that tournament up in Peabody, you know, and they beat those teams that were pretty good. But you're right. You got to make sure that you understand the players you have.
Right.
Like you did the right thing this year with your group, but I would say maybe one more step up.
Oh, absolutely. We need to be in the next division. I'd be upset if we were playing at the same division because there was nothing to prove. Now, the issue to me is how do you balance more program play? I don't mean running a set play every time, but running plays that have options that people have to make good basketball decisions and execute versus freelance where people struggle to get a quality shot off or turn the ball over, and we're not playing against shot clock. You know, when you get to high school, you have to be able to execute, create, play with more spontaneity. So that's why I think it's important to balance some structure with some spontaneity. How do you get the right level? You know, for example, I was thinking the other day about I always want to have at least one backdoor play in our offense, not because I care so much about whether we score with it, but I want kids to have a concept that that's an important way to score against pressure defense, right? So I put in things, you know, there's going to be a certain number of pick and roll plays, certain number of off-ball screens, things so that you're learning the game while you're developing your skills. And, you know, I totally get it that I'm not going to make everybody happy, and playing people more equal amounts of time disenfranchises the best players sometimes from developing at a pace that might be best for them. But you got to figure out something. I've enjoyed being with you tonight. I'm Ron Sen.
And I'm Ralph Labella, and thank you for watching Let's Talk Sports.